Welcome to Tamara Tattletales. I'm Tamara, and I spill the tea on your favorite reality stars. Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 10, Boston. Now, this episode featured Dr. Viviana meeting with all the couples. Based on her advice from last year, I wasn't really looking forward to her guidance with the couples. However, I have to admit that she surprised me this season for the most part. I didn't agree with her angle on everything, but I feel like she was more direct than she tends to be, which is exactly what these couples needed. Oh, and be sure to watch until the end because I am going to spill some tea for y'all. Dr. Viviana says, why is it every time I hear y'all have a conflict, it's about food and cooking? And Tootie's like, that's what I need from my wife. Dr. Viviana asks, did you ever eat before you were married? I could eat on the go and grab something easy and small, but I have a wife now and she works at home. Tootie, working from home doesn't mean housewife. So he proceeds to carry on about Katina not cleaning the house the way he expects, then gives the example of their housewarming party and how Katina only wanted to clean half the floor. Now, this show is very good at telling one side of the story when it suits them. I really wish we could hear Katina's side of the I want to sweep half the floor story, because I went back to look at what their apartment is like. It looks like half the floor is taken up with lighting equipment and furniture. Could it be that she said something like, I'm tired, so I'm just going to clean this half of the floor where people were actually walking around? I don't know. I just feel like we're only hearing half the floor story. Anyway, Tootie continued to carry on about how he's so bothered about her not cleaning, while at the same time denying that his big issue with her is the cleaning. So based on what he's been saying throughout these episodes, his standard is that she cooks fresh meals from scratch from him every day and cleans the house every day. Not every other day, every day. He says things like, I talked to her about her laziness. She may not be on my level mentally. Okay, dirty underwear, simmer down. This marriage is about us, not just about you. Tootie is behaving like that manager who yells at and treats his employees like crap, then doesn't understand why they aren't happy and performing at 110%. You're lazy. Be vulnerable. You only think about yourself. Will you rub my back? You're not on my level. Make me a sandwich? Tootie, nobody is trying to live with your emotional acrobatics. So Dr. Viviana says, it sounds like you have an idea of what marriage is supposed to look like, and if it doesn't look 100% as you like, you're going to put her down, tell her she's not growing, lazy, not good enough. She told him that his ideas are archaic, and the fact that he's basing his opinions of her as a wife on her ability to cook and clean is a flimsy argument. Now, I like some of the points that Dr. Viviana made, but what I don't like about this conversation is that for the most part, Dr. Viv and Tootie were talking about Katina as if she wasn't in the room. Katina eventually chimed in to tell him that his tone is harsh. She feels like he's beating up on her and he's highlighting her insecurities. But for the most part, this conversation was about what Tootie needs, what Katina is not doing, and what she needs to change in order to get him to say yes on decision day. And oh yeah, Tootie, work on your tone and delivery. His delivery and demeanor is everything. So later, Katina comes home with some bags and sets up a movie night catered by the 99-cent store. He was so happy and she was so proud of herself. She was explaining her little event concept, all proud like a kid almost. You kept saying that you wanted a movie night, and I was trying to think of something, right? Like, what is something that he kept saying that he wanted, like, over and over again? Like, a movie night. And you don't really go out. I'm like the one who goes out. So I was like, let's have a relaxing night in and like do a movie night. And I know you would like say stop with all the candy, but I just had to pull out all the candy. And Tootie's like, I'm so shocked, and this means a lot to me because you actually listened. You mean to tell me all this time, all she had to do was buy some juju fruits and put on some Netflix, and that would have shut him up? To the confessional cam, she said she's happy just knowing that she did something that he really enjoyed and that she finally got it right. Now later, they received their tantalizing care package from Dr. Viviana. Katina spanked him, he gave her a massage, she blindfolded him and poured vodka in his belly button and drank it. I guess she figured the alcohol would kill the germs crawling around in there. Then he carried her to the bedroom. Now, who knows? Maybe they consummated their marriage, if they are being honest about not having sex, that is. But I can't say that I'm rooting for this couple because I don't believe they're a good match. So just like Tootie and Katina, this was another couple that was difficult to watch, even harder to root for a yes on decision day. So they started by answering questions that were placed in a fishbowl. Tootie asked, "What can I do better in our marriage and why?" And Jazz says with her resting frown face, "Talk to me throughout the day about the small things because those can lead to bigger conversations." And Picky says, "Listen and understand that I'm not your enemy. It's not you against me." If that wasn't a waving of the white flag moment, like, girl, get off my back with all this tone stuff. The next question, is there anything you've been embarrassed to tell me? And Jazz tells this high school story. She said this girl told her that she started her cycle and had a big stain on the back of her pants. So the girl is going with Jazz to the bathroom while walking behind Jazz using her backpack to cover the stain. Then all of a sudden the girl moves her bag and then Jazz screams and plops on the ground and starts saying, "Oh my God, oh my God." But it turns out it was a prank. She didn't really have a stain on her pants. So Picky says, "Have I ever told you the pee-pee boy story?" Jazz starts laughing and he's like, "Why are you laughing?" "Dude, we were all laughing." So the story goes, he was 6 years old at school during story time, and the kids were sitting in a circle on the floor, and the teacher was reading a story, and he had to use the restroom. So he raised his hand and asked to go to the bathroom, but the teacher told him to wait until she was done with the story. So he raised his hand again because he really had to go, and she said, "Don't be disruptive." So he's like, "Okay, I got something for her." And all of a sudden, the kids started jumping up on the chairs because he peed and it was spreading out on the carpet. And so they started calling him Pee-Pee Boy. I wonder if this was the same day that the bully beat him up on the bus. 6 years old was a tough year for Picky. So Dr. Viviana asked, "Where are you two physically? Any hand holding, cuddling, or kisses?" And Picky says no, because he's allowing her to take the lead. And she says she's the type that wants an emotional, mental connection with someone before the physical connection. And if I don't have a mental connection with him, then my vagina is not getting wet for you. Wow, Jazz, didn't nobody ask you all that? Dr. Viviana asked Picky, "Are you afraid that whenever you express yourself in a way that she doesn't like, that she's going to label you as aggressive and disrespectful?" "Yes, the comfort level is just not there for me." "Well, I told you I'm open to starting over, but it's not being reciprocated, so there is just so much I can do. What happens is I'm focused on the issue and she's focused on me causing the issue. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about communication." But she says that, "But can you say that you have tried to talk to me?" "When do I get a chance to finish a thought?" "Well, you did stop talking. I thought you were done. So go ahead, finish your little thought." Every 3 words he'd say, Jazz would interrupt him. Her true colors really came out of the closet this episode. So Dr. Viviana recommended that Picky journal his thoughts and then share them with Jazz. Later, they were discussing their conversation that they had with Dr. Viv. And Picky said he was surprised to hear Jazz say that he wasn't putting in effort. Like, "Yeah, I can wave that ownership flag all I want, but that's not enough." And Jazz said, "I appreciate that she let us talk, but in a different way, because what we really need is to just communicate." And Picky says, "I think that the writing down thing is a good idea, because when we were trying to communicate with her, we cut each other." That happened twice. Please don't use that as something to go off of. Okay, whether it happened twice, 3 times, 1 time, my point is that it happened more than once. So what does that have to do with journaling? I think if we write things down, then we can let each other get out what we want to say. I personally don't want to write things because I have no problem vocalizing my thoughts like this. But you can write down your thoughts and come to me with your little journal. But this is both of our issue. We should both be doing the same thing to fix it. I'm not making it a you thing, and that's what you're taking it as. If I'm telling you that I don't need to journal, then I don't need to journal. I don't need to journal, but I'm not done, Picky. Why do I need to write in a journal if I'm saying, "Hey, I'm done, you may speak now"? He starts speaking and she says, "Can you give me a second?" Then walks out and talks to production. So she's frustrated with him, but she's clearly the one being defensive and acting like she don't have no home training. She comes back and re-explains the point she was trying to make that did not at all sound like what she was saying the first time around. So he's trying to get on the same page as her, and she turns her head, then proceeds to roll her eyes. Y'all, she rolled her eyes so far back into her head, it looked like she was channeling the spirits of her ancestors. To the confessional cam, he says it's hard to open up when it always turns into a disagreement. I'm just saying, the only thing this scene was missing was Jazz saying, I'm a good fucking person. Now, every season they seem to pick a couple who is struggling with intimacy and then send them to tantric yoga. Last year was Brett and Ryan. The year before that, it was Claire and Ryan. This year's tantric yoga couple was Jazz and Picky. Honestly, I don't think anything will help them because I don't believe Jazz even likes Picky. And I don't think Picky will ever feel comfortable communicating with her. If you ask me, this couple is just riding out the season to fulfill their contractual obligations. So, some of you have pointed out that Jasmina should have a nickname, and I totally agree. I was going to come up with one, but then I thought it would be more fun to have you all come up with her nickname. So if you have a nickname suggestion, put it in the comments and y'all can vote on the ones you like the best. I will pick the winning nickname after episode 11 airs, like the day after on Thursday. In my next video, I will share the winning nickname along with the name of the person who chose it. So just a couple things to bear in mind. Let's keep it to 1 to 2 words and nothing derogatory, like it shouldn't contain the B word or crazy, something light and silly. Also, the name should be self-explanatory, where I'm not getting a million questions asking me why I'm calling her Brutilda the Dragon Slayer or whatever. Noisy says she's still getting comfortable with Steve when it comes to trust and intimacy. Steve says it's hard for Noisy to verbalize when she's upset. She says she has a tendency to shut down, like she has a past of lashing out and saying whatever she can to hurt her partner. She doesn't want to say anything to Steve that she can't take back, and it's going to take a while for her to learn how to verbalize her feelings without being destructive. And so Steve said he understands, but it will have to change because they can't sustain the way things are now. Every one of these couples seem to have at least one hot-tempered person this season. So Dr. Viv asked Noisy what she needs in order to have more trust in Steve, and she said she needs him to have a concrete plan regarding his employment. And Steve's like, you doubt I'm capable of making money? I don't doubt it, but I haven't seen it. But it hasn't affected you financially, right? Okay, well, Steve, you guys are living in a free apartment and production is paying for all your activities. So what does that question even mean? I'm cooking and cleaning. Do you like the benefit of having these meals in a clean home? Because if I work full time, this place is not going to be as clean. The food is not going to be as good. Noisy says, this sounds like excuses. No, this sounds like he needs to be married to Tootie. She says, I can contribute to the housework. Steve's like, oh, well, now this requires faith on my part because I haven't seen that. I haven't seen us splitting the house duties. I think we should test it and see what it's like. What if I get a job and the chores around the house don't get done? I'm telling you, Steve is capable of making money, but he's not trying to go back to that life. This is the first time I've heard Steve be unreasonably defensive. If I go back to work, what if the house gets dirty? Dr. Viv asked Noisy if you guys ever had enough savings. Would you ever be okay with him staying at home and being a stay-at-home husband or dad? She's like, that's not what I want for my marriage. I've said this before. Steve is not articulating what his plan is. It kind of sounds like he wants to get his hustle on when he needs to build up his savings account, then chill until the savings account starts to dip again. But I don't know, a piece of this puzzle is missing with him in this employment situation. So later they were playing in the gadgets that Dr. Viviana sent. They were given cards that direct them on sensual things to do to each other or talk about. So the card says, take a body shot. And Noisy's like, what's a body shot? Really, miss, I'm wild and crazy with the alter ego and wear wigs? You don't know what a body shot is? So Steve said something kinky he'd like to try is them taking a shower and washing each other with soap and water. The way he presented that reminds me of a person who hands someone a stick of gum unsolicited because their breath stinks. Sorry, but that sounded more like a hint than a fantasy. Noisy says she would like them to have sex in a semi-public place. You know, he got excited. He was thinking like, woohoo, camping or sleeping in my car. That's the perfect semi-private place. Dr. Viviana asked, how do you feel about your marriage? And then both of them were like, very awkward, over the top laughing. And Mark said it's been a roller coaster. And Dr. Viviana said she knew there would be fireworks between them, but didn't think they would get so bad. Karen drops her cup on the floor and is oddly preoccupied with the straw and whatever is going on with the cup. So Dr. Viviana asks, how's your sex life? And Karen says, it's dead. On our wedding night, he said, I'm gonna make you feel so cared for and loved for in ways you've never imagined. I'm gonna treat you so well. We were intimate the next day, but the second time he said it didn't feel right, and I'm not sure. He agreed that he said those things and claims the first time they were intimate was great. And Karen says, it wasn't bad. I thought he could handle me, but it doesn't look like it. Dr. Viv says, Karen, do you want to have a good sex life with him? Yeah. Then you need to not be so rude when you're talking about it. It's so hard because I feel like, are you saying it's hard not to be rude? No, it's hard to talk to him about this. I was so happy to hear Dr. Viviana remind Karen about her rudeness. Sometimes it looks like she forgets that she's being rude. So Dr. Viviana concludes that you both want the best for each other and looking out for each other's interests. Now you need to look out for the best interests of your marriage and stop hitting each other below the belt when you argue. I don't know about all that, Dr. Viv. Karen doesn't seem to know how to argue in a constructive way, and they just don't feel like a good match to me. So later, Karen sets up a Nerf gun fight with Mark. It's supposed to be lighthearted, but it's like watching two dudes play paintball. She's kicking him and playing all rough. And Dr. Viv gave them a goodie basket that had like gag balls in it, so they sort of put them on. I thought it was interesting that Karen wrote driven on Mark's forehead as a word that she feels describes him after she made fun of his job and salary at the bowling alley. Anyway, they played with the items in the basket, but it was definitely more silly than sensual. The wives did aerial yoga, which was like watching a giraffe try to sit on a swing. They were not graceful. The men did ice hockey. Now, does production make sure these people can actually do these activities before they book them? These guys could barely ice skate. Ice hockey, someone could have broken a hip. The ladies talk about missing dating and being chased, and the men talk about where they're at with their marriages, blah, blah, blah. So, if you want to hear which couples say yes and no on decision day, keep watching. Now, according to the word on the street and MAFS fam, who rarely gets it wrong, more couples say yes than no on decision day. The couples that say yes actually might surprise you. Steve and Noisy. Karen and Mark. Jasmina and Picky Mickey. Katina and Tootie. I told you these results would be surprising. Now, just because they said yes on decision day doesn't mean they're still together today. Oh, and please don't forget to add your nickname idea for Jasmina in the comments.